One table box guitar tuition, so doing another classic album review here from 40 years old, 40 years today, Point of Entry by Judas Priest. So is this a classic album? This is quite a controversial, problematic album in the Priest canon. The album before 1980 was British Steel, the album after was Scream for Vengeance, their biggest selling album, and British Steel, one of their definitive classic albums, and this is the weird filling in that sandwich. So let's kind of delve into. So basically the band had some success obviously with the British Steel album. Just move forward a bit. Well, massive success really, gold in America and gold in Britain, or certainly silver. It put them on the map properly. They finally had some money, so they're able to go to Ibiza to record this. I'm just trying to look for the name of the studios. Ibiza Studios, Spain, that's what it's called. So they're basically able to take all their gear out of there, lug it out, and enjoy the sunshine a bit, but hopefully, you know, get away from things to focus creatively. Now, reading Rob Halford's autobiography, he feels they got distracted a bit, and took their eye off the ball, but that's only recently said that. I think at this point, you have to see how hard Judas Priest had worked. Basically, from rock and roller, they toured every year, toured the UK, Europe. They'd gone to America, one of the first British metal bands to go to America. I was supporting Kiss in '77. And they'd just been on this cycle, you know, of intensity, building up to the British Steel album. So they were probably, you know, maybe they just wanted to chill in a more relaxed atmosphere. So this album's very different. I think one of the things that gets, you know, you have to say this album, it's a hard rock album. It's not a heavy metal album. Yeah, it's got heavy metal elements, but British Steel's a heavy metal album, as is Scream for Vengeance, as is Killing Machine. This has got more hard rock elements, it's more commercial, and it's taken, if you take the more commercial elements of British Steel, like Living After Midnight, or a track like Evening Star of Killing Machine, and so on, and those types of choruses and stuff, that's what you're going to find more on this album. I think the first port of call is every member performs really well. It's got an excellent drum sound. Dave Holland gets knocked a lot. But the snare sounds really snappy, really tight, great toms. There's a really good room kind of sound on that. Bottom end's good. Rim guitars don't have a lot of distortion in, quite AC/DC-ish, but powerful. Lead breaks suit the songs, and of course Rob Halford's in really good form on it. His vocal kind of sound and style on this is recalling Killing Machine more. So he seems to be going, you know, for a more commercial voice, I guess. I think there's a quote here just saying, Halford admits to being dismayed by the reaction the album received. K.K. Downing had a more mixed perspective. People don't understand how pressurised we were by the label, either to do covers or make hits. With that album, we gave them what they wanted. So clearly, the record company thought, you know, if we can just get Judas Priest more commercial, they'll go over the top. Which it did, but with the Scream for Vengeance on. The other issue with this album is it had two different album covers. The one in America is terrible. It's a big roll of computer paper going to a point in the desert. And this is the album cover we got here, so it's batter front. It's actually really cool. For years I didn't know what it is, but it's a plane wing in the sky. It's a really cool graphic, and you had the logo in the top. When you got the album sleeve, the red logo, that's actually got silver. It's a reissue. It is a cool sleeve, but it just doesn't quite say metal enough. Thinking with hindsight now, if they'd done a kind of cover, I know this is cheesy, maybe they've had a kind of point of an anvil going into some flames of sparks, but done in a kind of modernist way, which Priests are very good at. That maybe would have said more metal. And I think with the album, which I'll come to, you know, if they'd maybe lost 2 or 3 tracks, could maybe put in some heavier ones or some up-tempo there, or maybe suggest some later tracks that might have worked on this. But let's go through the album. Starts off with a Priest classic, Heading Out to the Highway. They still play it live. It's a really cool tune. What you instantly notice on this is like the tight sound, how well it's recorded. And it's got a great chorus, and that's something that the album throws up. It's got great choruses on this album. Sometimes the verses and bridges and other elements of the song don't match up, but Priest know how to write a great chorus. So it's a really cool opening. It just set the tone for the album. It's a hard rock track, and a good one at that. Track 2 was the single Don't Go. I feel this falls into like Priest plod territory, which started with Take on the World and then United. It had a weird conceptual video. I remember it on Tiz Was in 1981, which is quite cool. It is a good track. I was listening to it before, I was thinking, this chorus is slays. It's a massive chorus. Don't go. It's really good. It's very commercial. It's got a nice lead break by KK Downing, you know, rarely, you know, in a rare form, getting a lead break on his own instead of trading off with Glenn or Glenn hogging it. So it's a good track. It's a kind of 6, 7 out of 10 track. It's just, you know, this album maybe needs a different running order. Maybe they could have put this track later. Track 3, which maybe should have been track 2, is a great track. It's hot rocking. It's daft. It's got daft lyrics. I love this song. It's got a great riff. Brilliant half of vocal, ridiculous video, and it's got a fantastic solo by KK and Glenn. And what they do on this is something that they do on other solos. They pick a theme, so they use pinch harmonics on this. So both guitarists have said, right, let's both use pinch harmonics, and we'll try and out pinch harmonic each other. So KK takes a first solo and finishes on, you know, puts in a few pinches and gets squeals. And then Glenn comes in. And I think it shows like the balance. You know, people always have to think, oh, Glenn's much better than KK. But when you listen to this solo, you know, it's not a massive difference. You know, on a solo like this, KK's break perfectly intertwines with Glenn's and he matches them. I still maintain that KK's maybe a slightly tighter rhythm player than Glenn sometimes as well. But next track, Turning Circles. So here's like where things get weird. This is like a weird deep cut. It starts off with some sort of almost reggae-ish chords, and they're using kind of chord shapes, you know, higher up the fretboard for your guitarists to kind of major chords, D, G, B, high E type shapes. And that's something that's prevalent in the album is chord shapes and inversions used on the G and B string or the G, B and high E upper triads. It's something you can probably hear me mention. Again, it's got a killer chorus, this track. Halford's vocals quite strange on it. Again, sort of recalling that Killing Machine vibe at times. But it's a really good song. It's a really sophisticated song. It's got a really sophisticated middle section, and Glenn does some lovely kind of like just really mellow lead on it. A lot of atmosphere. It's just strange kind of putting this track as track 4. You know, so you've got Heading Out to the Highway, then Don't Go, then Hot Rockin', then this. But I really do like the track. One of the most interesting Judas and unusual Judas Priest tracks. This kind of reggae thing, you know, they'd explored it with the Rage off British Steel. And the Technique probably Rush had done it on Spirit of Radio. Scorpions, I think the first to do it is There Anybody There off the Love Drive album. That'd be early 79. So, you know, those elements are out there. Side 1 finished on the original vinyl with Desert Plains. This is a live favourite. Unfortunately, when I play it live, they play it too fast for me because it's got a lovely groove. But this is, again, it shows the skill of the band. It's a commercial hard rock song. It's got a great feel. Dave Holland's drums are great. Again, a good trade-off between KK and Glenn, evenly matched. Really cool lyric by Rob. You know, something that other metal bands struggle to do, but Priest never did, really bringing in classy songwriting. So again, this is kind of seesaw on side 1, you know. But finishing strong, and side 2 opened with another great deep cut. Now they used to open live on the Point of Entry tour for this. She said the Point of Entry tour was very successful. The album didn't do as well, but the tour was very well received. But Solar Angels is such a great track. There's a really great production on this. Again, the riff's got kind of shapes on the guitar, on the G and B, maybe being high E. Again, a more sparkly sound, really powerful, really simple and direct with a great drums, great bass sound. Really good lead break by Glenn. You know, using some classic bluesy phrasing, really deep in. Cool lyrics. I think this track kind of, the lyrics of this almost suit the album cover, you know, suggesting something futuristic, and it kind of fits in with the Point of Entry theme. The other element on this is actually, if you listen just before the solo, they track in another E chord, and it just fucking explodes. It's so big, you know, it just goes gow, and, you know, sophisticated production for a metal album, this, well, hard rock, you know. Again, probably taking a bit of a cue from Back in Black. Loads of bands must have been influenced by that. And I'm suspecting Priest, as they toured America in 79, 80, will have heard stuff like Journey, particularly Foreigner 4. Albums that were big with commercial potential, and I think that's probably seeped into the DNA a bit of this. So Solar Angel's great. So this is that side, opening side 2, and then we've got another weird track. You Say Yes, and I'm never sure what I feel about this track, but when I was cranking the album before, like before I do this, I always have a good listen to the album on a good system. And I was really enjoying the track. It's kind of got a groovy sort of riff. Hard to describe it really. You know, it's kind of a bit sort of bluesy rock, a bit sort of fun. Got a really catchy chorus, but very unusual for Priest. And then again, it breaks down to a really mellow middle section, like Turning Circles, and then it's got some more almost reggae-ish guitar again, using these upper chord voicings. Calford's vocals quite weird on it. It's a good track. It's an interesting track. It's just, you know, if you played it to someone and they were wondering what Judas Priest sound like, and you played them that, it would throw a curveball. This, I should say, this album. I'll show you the back there. This isn't an entry Judas Priest album. If someone's wanting to get into Judas Priest, you'd probably go, well, buy British Steel, get Unleashed in the East, and check out Painkiller or something. And that would be a kind of access point, you know, point of entry is like an album to go to after that. The next track's the weakest on the album for me. It's All the Way. I can't really get away with this. Again, it's kind of going for sort of upbeat kind of rock. Again, Rob used his quite a strange sort of vocal approach on it. I don't know if it's in the style of really. It just it kind of feels like, again, they're trying to create a commercial track, but just doesn't quite happen for me. Again, sorry, I keep going on about it, but again, it starts with a riff that's got these higher kind of triad chords. Definitely one of the weakest tracks. I wouldn't say, I'm not sure I dislike it. It's hard to say. My mood can change on this one. I think that's the story of the album, depending on what mood I'm in. But it's been in my life 4 years. I should say, actually, this is the first Judas Priest album I bought. This is one of the first albums I bought, proper albums. I bought a compilation in 1980 called Kilowatts. The first proper album I bought was Point of Entry. £3.99 from Daly's Records in Canada. There you go. Next track's Troubleshoot. Again, this is where the AC/DC thing comes in, you know. So it starts off with a simple 4-on-the-floor beat, you know, pedaling bass, and then playing a simple line over the top, quite bluesy. I do like this track. I maybe used to like it more, but again, it's got a really catchy chorus. Again, a lovely lead break. I think Glenn comes in first, and then it modulates key change, and then KK builds on that again, evenly matching each other. You know, the kind of shredding of KK and Glenn will appear on the next album, and then there'll be this sort of more competition, and Glenn will start to hog the solos more. I mean, he does hog stained class solos, but then it's a bit more evenly balanced, and is on this album. Yeah, this is a cool track, and then it finishes off with another AC/DC style track, but I really like it, On the Run. Again, the chorus is killer. It's quite heavy, this one of the heaviest tracks on the album. And Rob Halford does an amazing chorus, amazing kind of high chorus. Brilliant Glenn lead break on this, one of his best on this album. And then it kind of finishes with a kind of rock and roll live ending, and that's the end of the album. And I think that's a kind of the weird thing about the album. It just is this, it seesaws, like side 2 opens with Solar Angels, and then it goes You Say Yes, which is kind of this weird curveball, then all the way, then Troubleshoot, and then On the Run, and it's just going through like that. I mean, if I was marking out of 10, I mean, there's been times in my life I've been like an 8.5, 9 out of 10. There's times where I'm like more 7.5. I think it's an 8 out of 10. It's a key album of 1981, but I think people talk about like Maiden. Maiden went out supporting Priest in the States, and the Killers album, which is a strong second album, released the same month. Their sales went up, you know, that album made 78, I think they sold probably 200,000. Initially that 250, and then eventually went gold. For Priest, British Steel had gone gold, eventually platinum. This album didn't go gold for a long time, didn't go gold till 1988, so the sales went down, so it didn't work. The combination of not the right tracks, and the combination of the album cover, packaging and marketing, just undid the album, but the tour was really good, and they got the production right, and they went back to Ibiza studios, and you know, were able to make another record there, and you know, you can't help but think if Priest made the awesome follow-up to British Steel, maybe they would have got more that Maiden level, you know, more that trajectory. I think there's tracks, you know, a track like You've Got Another Thing Coming, you know, if you took the kind of weird, like All the Way off, and like you had a track like You've Got Another Thing Coming on this, You could say Devil's Child would be a better AC/DC style track than Troubleshooter, perhaps. Moving on to the Defenders of the Faith album, something like Rock Hard Ride Free would work brilliant on this record. Some Heads Are Gonna Roll would be the type of track that would work well as well. Maybe Love Bites, you know. So, and Scream for Vengeance, that's got Take These Chains, that's a Bob Halligan track. So there's kind of tracks that are late and you think, oh, maybe if they're on this. But I don't know, the album is what it is. It's become sort of a, it's not a classic, but it's a Judas Priest album you've got to have. You've got to listen to it, and I still enjoy listening to it. You know, it's a really interesting hard rock album, but it probably wasn't the time for Judas Priest to be experimenting. But reading into it, I'm not sure they realised they were really. I think they just went in there, they did it, it came out, and it's later with hindsight. It's like quite a strange record. Cheers, hope you enjoyed that. Cheers, see you soon, thanks.